How's it going, YouTube? Dylan here. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 practical tips to do if you're still in college and considering a software engineer career. Now, the reason for making this video is because when I think back on my journey, there's a lot of things that I did in college, very stupid things that I wish I did that would have set me up in terms of my long-term career, and it wouldn't have made me go through all the struggles that I did trying to get my first job. So if you don't know about my story, it took me 2 years during COVID to find my first position, and it wasn't even a software position. I just took a regular engineering position in order to pay the bills and gain work experience, right? And then I took a freelancing gig, and that was my first software engineering position. So thinking back on it, I did make a lot of mistakes, and I wanted to share with you in 5 practical tips that you may find useful if you're still in school or recently graduated. Because here's the thing, right? If you're in a software engineering program or any engineering major for that matter, you're in a very primal position to really set your career up for life. And this is something that I wish I did. So the first one is do internships. Now, this is the most important part of the whole thing, right? When you go to college, there's a lot of things that you have to worry about. You have to worry about, getting good grades. You have to worry about getting internships. You have to worry about, keeping up with your college life, because obviously you're only in college once and, you're only young once, so it's nothing wrong with having a little bit of fun here and there. So, but the most important thing that you should really be focusing on is doing internships, because right now what I'm seeing in the market and what we're seeing over the last couple years is internships are the new entry level, right? So it behooves you to take as many internships and make a good impression on your employer as possible so that you can increase the chances of getting that return offer. And I'd actually extend that to trying to take internships as early as possible. So that's going to be number 2. So try to take internships as early as possible. If you can do it freshman year, then excellent, try to do that. But oftentimes, you're probably going to start getting internships in sophomore year. If you're an American, sophomore year is typically second year in university talk. So try to get an internship in sophomore year and try to develop a good relationship with your employer. So a little bit of a story. I did take on a internship in sophomore year. I was working for the government of Canada as a junior programmer, even though I was studying electrical engineering. So that kind of brings me on to my third point and leads me on to the next part of my story is when I was finished this internship where I was working on SQL, I was doing a pretty good job. My boss invited me to come back and, work part-time for him and continue on the internship, right? One of the main regrets that I have here is I declined it. I wanted to focus on school and I wanted to make sure that I get my grades up. Now think about it. It took me 6 years to graduate. I got my first position in second year. Imagine that I worked part-time for this employer. I would have 4 years of experience, even if it was part-time, right? Think about how good that would look on my resume as opposed to, say, my previous employment working as a lifeguard, probably getting paid the same amount as the internship. But this time, it would be valuable experience. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about, the fourth thing, is about GPA. So the truth about the GPA is your GPA doesn't really matter, right? Your GPA only matters enough for you to stay in the co-op program or the internship program. Other than that, the most valuable thing, as I said before, is going to be work experience, right? Because if you can graduate college with 1 year, 2 years of experience, you've already become an ideal client for a lot of new graduate positions in the case that you don't get a return offer, right? The only thing that GPA is really going to help you is if you plan to pursue post-secondary, or not post-secondary, but post-undergrad education in the terms of master degrees or PhD degrees, then obviously, you're going to need a good GPA in order to qualify for these programs. So for the majority of people, especially if you're an engineer, you're not really too concerned about going after a post-grad degree. Unless you're in the US, you have certain visa requirements, then yes, I do recommend that. But again, that does come down to strategy in terms of what you want to do from there. Now, the last advice I have is if you're say in third year, if you're say in senior year, I believe that so it's junior year, I think is third year, and senior year, I would advise you to take a long-term internship if possible. So let's say you didn't end up taking a sophomore position, right? Or a sophomore internship, and you waited until senior year or junior year. Then take a 12-month internship. That way you get your 1 year of experience. 1 to 2 years is probably the ideal scenario that you want to be in order to have the best chance to succeed in the market, right? So those are the 5 things that you want to keep in mind if you're in college and you're trying to develop a game plan, a strategy in order to navigate it. So for those new grads out there, what I also recommend is if you're in senior year, this is a bonus tip by the way, is apply early, right? Because here's the thing, there's such thing as kind of being washed per se, right? So what does that mean? So for most new grad positions, what they're going to require is there's going to be a certain cutoff date in terms of your eligibility to apply for a certain new grad position. And I actually talked to a recruiter about this today, and she said that if you exceed the graduated in X amount of time, then you are no longer eligible for new grad positions, and that puts you basically in a rock and a hard place. So in order to avoid this, what you want to do is you want to apply in senior year, maybe at the beginning of senior year, for those new grad positions. So that way you're not in the scenario where you're 2 years, 3 years out, and you're no longer eligible for these new grad positions, but you're not experienced enough to apply for, say, L4 or L5, depending on the company position, where you're kind of towards like software engineer 2, right? You don't have the experience of that, but you're no longer eligible for software engineer 1, right? So those are my big things that I wish I did in college that is going to really help you guys. I hope you enjoyed the 5 tips and the bonus tips. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, as it really helps support the channel and lets you know that you enjoy content like this. And of course, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. Give me any video ideas and I'll consider making another video about it. So without further ado, I'll see you in the next video.